Figure it out.
Hello, this is Adam Koralik with Figure It Out Productions. The following video is part of our Quick Shoot series.
Hey guys, it's Adam here, and welcome to PlayLoad. This is almost all of my video game pickups for the month of October 2014. And I say almost because the last 3 videos in a row that I've done were unboxing videos. Some people were very nice, and they sent me some free things, which was great. I did a trade with a guy. I also bought a lot of original Xbox games. Since you guys just saw that stuff, I'm not going to put it in this video for the most part because it would make the video take like 3 times as long and it would be repetitive as hell. So I'm just going to include a couple of those things. But again, if you want to see a lot of Japanese Sega Saturn games, click the link, click up here. If you want to see a bunch of original Xbox games, there's something right there. Click that. And if you want to see a bunch of like N64 stuff, you can click right here. But the rest of it, that stuff won't be in this video. But one thing that you guys did see briefly that is in this video is this. This is of course, a Sega Dreamcast. Now, I got this from a guy named Saturn HST, which I'll put a link to his channel right there. He had worked out a trade with me for a bunch of Japanese Sega Saturn games, but he also wanted to give me this absolutely for free, including the original box and everything, which I have. It's just over there. I just took it out just to show you guys. I cleaned it up a bit. It works great. There's nothing wrong with it at all. The thing that's special about it, though, is that it's an Asian model, not to be confused with the Japanese model. It has the same region coding as a Japanese model. It even says NTSC-J on the bottom. It has the transparent type of piece of plastic here instead of the translucent one like we got in North America and Europe. So just about everything about it is identical except for one thing, which is on the back here, you'll see there's no modem. No broadband port. It's just a dummy thing. Like this comes off, but there's nothing there. This piece of plastic does nothing. And I found that very interesting. So I looked through the manual of this thing, and it's completely in English. And the deal with this is that this was released in Hong Kong now in 1998. Now, if you know your history, Hong Kong actually was still owned by the British at that point. It was turned back over to the Chinese in 1999. So technically, I think that's why this got a release there, and that's why I think it's in English. But I think that has something to do with it. But there you go. So this is a kind of a limited release, because I don't know if once Hong Kong was returned back to the Chinese, if the Dreamcast was still being allowed to be released there or not. I know the Chinese tend to ban game consoles, but not always, so I don't totally know. But yeah, so either way, very cool little piece of history to have that. Didn't even know it existed until he sent it to me, or was talking about sending it to me, so very cool for to get that, and thank you again, Saturn HST. Over here, got a Gamecom. This is a handheld that was sent to me by a guy named, we will refer to as John. This is a handheld I've never had. It's usually referred to as one of history's worst handhelds, and it very well may be, but it's very neat to finally have one. I've just seen them, but never held one or anything, never used one until this, and very cool to have that. It has a little stylus there. It came with 2 games, one of which is Wheel of Fortune, the other one's like a quiz game. It houses them both on the sides. And yeah, it's great. And thank you again for that, John. That was really, really cool of you. I got some Amiga CD32 games. I got Mean Arenas, Whale's Voyage, Ultimate Body Blows, and then a double pack of Overkill and Lunar Sea. Now, these 2 were sent to me by a guy named Suba, a guy in the Netherlands. Very nice of him to do that. He said he found them at like a Goodwill type of equivalent, like a charity shop, thrift store type of thing. And he didn't want them, so he was like, hey, just take them. So thank you for that, because Amiga CD32 stuff, that console did not come out in the United States. Finding games for it is essentially impossible here, and since he found them for virtually nothing, he said, just take them, dude. So I did. And these were sent to me by a store in the UK called Reload Games. I had actually done a video on them when I went to the UK, and as kind of a thank you for making that video, they sent me these, which they didn't have to do that. I did go to the store without ever knowing or thinking that would be a thing. But that was very cool of them to do that. So do me a favor if you guys don't mind. I'll put a link to their Facebook page in the description. If you're on Facebook, why don't you just go ahead and click like and check them out. And if you're in the UK, certainly you should check out Reload Games. Now up here, I got the Gold Star 3DO. If you guys saw my 5th video game retrospective series, one of the videos was on the 3DO, and I had actually just bought this the day before I shot the 3DO video. And if you guys remember, I think I mentioned that in the video. It was dirty. I bought it at a used CD store called Disc Replay, which is a chain here in Chicago. For 40 bucks, I got the console, I got a controller, and a few games. The first two are just demo discs. Then I got Hell, Cyberpunk Thriller, Lemmings, which I think is on every console ever, Theme Park, and a demo of Total Eclipse. You know, nothing special there, but for 40 bucks, I wasn't going to complain. Just add those games to my 3DO collection and then have another console. So the deal with this was that I knew it worked because I bought it there, and they don't sell stuff that's broken. I was going to do a cleaning and restoring video that I do, you know, that series. And I started to shoot that, but ran into a couple of problems. One, like I said, I already knew it worked, so we were just going to be cleaning it. We weren't really going to be restoring it. Second was that I flipped it over, and there's 4 screw points on the bottom, right? And I went to go, you know, put the screwdriver in, only to discover that like 3 of them had like Elmer's glue stuck in it. Like clearly at some point a little kid had access to this thing and had just decided to put glue in it. Elmer's glue being like that white glue that we all use as little kids for like arts and crafts and stuff. Clearly he had jammed it in there or whatever, so I actually had to pick it out. This is, trust me when I say this was not something that was factory. It was clearly the actions of a little kid. Or somebody who's just incredibly stupid. I don't know. But yeah, I managed to get that all out, and then managed to get all the screws out, but I still could not get the lid to like lift off. And I have 2 reasons for thinking this was the case. One is it was being held up by the front part. Now I think that has to do with the fact that this little plastic piece under here kind of has to slip over the disc tray here. That seemed to be causing some resistance. So I figured there must be a way to kind of pop it out and up and over, but I wasn't totally sure, and I felt like I was risking damaging this piece of plastic. Like I could break that right off, and then I'd wreck the thing like permanently, which would be stupid if I'm trying to restore it. The other thing was that what could have been causing resistance again is if there was glue in those ports, or in the holes for the screws, then it's very likely there might be glue inside the console holding it together. And I figured, the thing works, let's not risk damaging it. So all I really ended up doing was kind of a surface cleaning. You know, there were a lot of scuffs and scrapes, dirt, grime, got all that out, made it nice and shiny, put Pledge on it, made it look good. And yeah, I think for 40 bucks, I did pretty well on that. So there you go, Gold Star 3DO. Then I got Okami HD for the PS3. Okay, a little bit of a story with this one. So last month, if you watched PlayLoad, I talked about Okami for the PS2 being like my big regret pickup of the month. And the reason for that was because I had just found out this existed. And so buying the PS2 version was kind of a mistake. Okami is a game I had kind of wanted for a while, but I was always kind of waiting on the right price and the right version. Now, I might get a little bit of hate for this, but please let me explain. When it comes to games available on the PS2 tends to be my last choice. And the reason for that is I don't really like the controller that much. And it's not like I hate Sony. I love the PlayStation 4 controller. I just don't like the design of the PS1, PS2, PS3 controller. I don't think it's a very comfortable design. So that's always been kind of an issue for me. Secondly, is the video quality of the PlayStation 2 is not good. And I'm not saying the graphics, they're 2 different things. The video quality, like when you hook it up under its maximum settings, you put in the component cables, you set up the system configuration, you try to get the most highest definition picture clarity out of it as you possibly can, it just looks muddy and bad. Whereas all of its contemporary counterparts do not suffer that problem. And certainly the consoles that came after it. Hell, a lot of the consoles that came before it have vastly superior picture quality. Again, not better resolution, not better graphics, better picture quality. And so if I can avoid the PS2, I tend to do that. So I didn't really want the PS2 version of Okami. But I looked at the alternatives. There was a Wii version, which I knew would have better resolution and probably look a little nicer, etc. But you have to use the Wiimote. And I actually truly do hate the Wiimote. I think that is hands down like the worst controller of all time, which people give me shit for, but I stand by it. I fucking hate that controller. So I didn't want that. And then there was the PS3 HD version. But in North America, we only got a digital version of that, and I don't support digital content. So I just went, the hell with it, I'll get the PS2 version. I had found out there was a physical Japanese release for the PS3, much like this. And I passed on that because that only had Japanese. So again, that's why I got the PS2 version. And shortly after buying that, at some point, I got a random comment on one of my videos that had nothing to do with Okami. We weren't even talking about the concept of Okami. It never came up. Just somebody posted a link and said, "Hey Adam, look at this. Okami HD physical release." And again, I assumed he was talking about the Japanese one, but he wasn't. He was talking about this one. This was actually released in Hong Kong, much like this Dreamcast, and as a result is in English. So this is the best of all worlds here. This is the HD version. You can actually use a PS4 controller with it if you want to. And it's physical. And of course the PS3 is region free. So this is just absolutely great. Unfortunately, it's in this ugly, like, PlayStation, the best artwork, you know, the greatest hits equivalent. There supposedly is a more normal looking version with like the black strip and all that. Couldn't find it for sale, at least not at a good price, so whatever, I ended up settling for this. There was a guy in Hong Kong, and I feel a little bad about this because I mentioned some of this story in last month's PlayLoad. And when I said that, I had already purchased this and it was on its way. And a bunch of people, I think, went and looked around on eBay for the same thing. They're like, oh, I want the physical HD PS3 version as well. And there was one guy, the guy I bought it from on eBay was in Hong Kong and was selling it for $27 per copy, which is what I bought this for. And I think a bunch of other people did that because he had 14 copies in stock and then suddenly dropped down to 4 copies. And he jacked the price from $27 to $127 per copy. Yeah, I think I'm partially responsible for that. I can't imagine that's a coincidence that suddenly he had that big of a demand on it. So I do apologize to anyone who was interested in this, because I certainly didn't think that would happen. I would say if you are interested in this, just keep a diligent eye out on eBay. Once the demand goes down, the price will go down, and you'll be able to get it at a good price. So now you know it exists, so you can keep an eye out for it. Z for the Sega Saturn. If you don't know, I'm on a quest to get a full US, or North American, I should say, Sega Saturn set. Now, this game is actually European. This did not come out in North America. Ironically, I didn't get any US games or North American games this time. I got a bunch of Japanese ones, as you guys saw in that other video, but I also got this. Now, the reason I picked this up is that I was just scouring through eBay for Sega Saturn stuff, and I noticed this game, which, again, is a European exclusive and usually sells for like between $70 to $90 over there, plus, you know, shipping from Europe. But there was a dude in New Jersey, of all places, who had this complete, and he was willing to sell it for $30, including shipping. So, the fuck, I went ahead and got it. So, there you go. I got to chip off another, one of the European exclusives and narrow that list down. I got Gunstar Heroes for the Sega Genesis. This is complete as well. I actually got this on a Facebook group. Yes, I have Facebook, but I don't use it that often. So I got, like, people add me to groups. They add me to all sorts of things on there. I get friend requests all the time. I think I have like 200 unread messages on there, something like that. I just don't use Facebook that much. But one day I actually was looking through my my news feed or whatever, and someone had posted in the Sega Collectors group they were selling this. They wanted $65 for Gunstar Heroes. Now, Gunstar Heroes usually goes for like 70, maybe 80. So I offered him 45. He said 55 shipped and it's yours, and came to an agreement, and here it is, Gunstar Heroes. Now, Gunstar Heroes is a really cool game that is kind of what the Genesis was all about. And what I'm saying by that is basically that when you think of that era, you know, Nintendo versus Sega and the 4th gen, you tend to think, oh, there was Sonic on one side, and on the other side there was Mario. But then you also go, well, there was Mario, and there was Metroid, and there was, you know, Link and Zelda, and there was, you know, you can just start listing all these Nintendo characters. But on the Sega side, you kind of have a problem doing that. And the reason isn't because the Sega side didn't have good characters. It was because Sega was retarded when it came to their marketing. They couldn't figure out how to present anything to anybody except how to present Sonic. Oh, he's fast. Oh. Yeah, we got it. Okay, he's fast. But everything else they had was just as unique and awesome, but they never knew how to tell us about it. So as a result, there's a lot of really good games out there that no one's ever heard of, and this is one of them. This is also a game that looks beautiful. It was actually, technically, it was made by Treasure. Treasure did a lot of stuff for the Genesis through some sort of affiliation with Sega directly. And hooking this thing up through RGB SCART, it's ridiculous how good this game actually looks. Very fun game, very cool, and I'm really glad I've got it. Moving on, GameFly had a sale. GameFly is an American, I believe it's an American company that is basically like a rental service. They basically will ship you a disc, and you can hold on to it for as long as you want, play it as long as you want, and then return it in a little envelope they give you. Kind of like Netflix. I don't know if they're in any other countries, though. But they often want to liquidate their assets and just kind of get rid of, you know, a bunch of the games, because you can only rent games for so long before there's no real demand, so then they just kind of sell it off. So I picked up a bunch of games on one of their big sales. One, I got the Mass Effect trilogy here, only a few bucks each. And then I kind of regretted it. Not because the games are bad or anything like that. Certainly that's not the case, although a lot of people hate the ending of this one. The reason I regret it is that I think this series is ripe for the definitive edition treatment. You know what I'm talking about? Like, a lot of the 8th gen games that are coming out now are basically 7th gen games that are almost direct PC ports, you know, like, or they'll just kind of pretty it up. They'll add better, you know, textures, increase the resolution, add all the DLC back in. You basically have the same game again, it just looks prettier. I get the feeling that Mass Effect's trilogy is going to have that happen at some point. Just like, you know, Tomb Raider did, just like Grand Theft Auto 5 is getting, just like Sleeping Dogs, etc. Metro Last Light, I think, was one of them as well. I mean, think about how easy that would be to market. You know, oh, look, the definitive Mass Effect trilogy. Get all 3 games, all the DLCs, all in one disc. Better resolution, better everything. I think that'd be a pretty easy sell for a lot of people. So, but while that's by no means a confirmed thing, I have not read anything about that. It's just one of those things I just kind of got a gut feeling that's probably going to happen. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know. So I might wait a little longer before I kind of play through these, just because, if it's possible, I'd rather have the nicer versions. But, you know, we'll see. I also picked up Saints Row 2. I played the shit out of Saints Row 4, which actually also got the definitive edition treatment. Haven't played the other ones, but I had 1 and 3. I just never had 2, so decided to pick it up. Speaking of definitive editions, we might have the definitive edition, if you like that pathetic joke, which is Tomb Raider. This one's kind of the one that kicked it all off. So I'm sure you guys have heard a lot about this over time, so why even address it anymore? Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes. Yes, the 10-minute demo. Hey, for $6, you try passing on that. Okay, maybe you could, but I couldn't. $6, I'm going to do it. And Infamous Second Son limited edition. Now, I really like the other Infamous games, so I wanted to see what the PS4 was going to offer me with that. And upon doing some more research on that, I found out there was actually another game called Infamous First Light for the PS4, and I was like, oh, I want to get that. And of course, in North America, it was only a digital version, which sucks. But then I found out in Europe, specifically the UK, but it's possible that it also happened in mainland Europe, that it got a physical release. So I went ahead and imported it. Yes, of course, the PS4 is region-free, so no problems there. Just went ahead, got it, pop it in, and you can play it. All you gotta have is slightly different, you know, rating systems. Instead of T for teen, you have 16, but, you know, whatever, that's no big deal. So very nice to be able to have a physical copy of this. And then I got a game that I think a lot of you probably picked up. Super Smash Brothers for 3DS. This is actually my first 3DS game. I've had a 2DS for quite some time, but never had any real games for it. I'm not particularly passionate about handhelds. I just prefer playing things on the TV. And I know why they did this. You know, they are just trying to hold people over until Super Smash Brothers for the Wii U comes out. If they had released both at the same time, probably wouldn't have got as good as sales. So this is kind of, hey, we'll put this out there, and you'll all buy it, and you'll really amp yourself up and hold yourself over until the Wii U version comes out. Brilliant move on their part, to be honest. So yeah, picked it up, and you know, I enjoyed it. I can't say necessarily I would have picked it up if I hadn't already played it at PAX Prime. Then I might have just waited for the Wii U version, but hey, they suckered me into it, so I got that. Bayonetta 2. Alright, so here's the thing. I don't usually, when I make videos like this, I never tell people, go buy something. You know, I tell people, like, here's what I got. If you like it, if you want to check it out, go for it. This is a game I'm going to just flat out tell you, you should go buy this. And I'm going to make a really bold statement I'll probably get in a little bit of trouble for here, but I'm going to say go ahead and buy it regardless if you have a Wii U or not. And I say that for a few reasons. Hear me out. Bayonetta 2 kind of has a lot riding on it. Bayonetta 2, it's a game that is a previously dead franchise resurrected basically solely through the will of its fans. Because the first game really didn't make any money. So it's kind of a minor miracle this even happened. So you have a game that's going to be kind of a definitive test market game to see if other previously dead franchises can have a future. And I know I'm not just talking about this guy, but because I don't think that would be enough. But other franchises could have that, chance at new life if this game is successful. Additionally, it's weird because it's becoming a rarer thing to get an offline, unique, single-player, great first-person experience. You're not getting that as much anymore. A lot of things are either lacking in variety. We get a lot of first-person shooters, and we get a lot of definitive editions. Same things over and over again, stuff like that. But this is, I don't know. It's just fresh. That's what I'm saying. It's fresh, and that's becoming a rarer and rarer thing. And I think it's something that should be supported. On top of that, it's also a Nintendo. It's also a Wii U game that is a third-party game, which is almost unheard of at this point in time. It's a mature IP for the Wii U, which again is very unique. It's also a game that's getting ridiculously good scores. I believe GameSpot ranked it as only their 8th game in their entire history to get a perfect score. A perfect score is a pretty bold claim. So, I don't know. I'm just saying this is something that should be supported. Good gameplay experiences like this that have a lot riding on them, they deserve your money in a way that a lot of other games simply do not. And on top of that, man, it's actually a really good value because not only do you get Bayonetta 2, it actually includes a physical copy of Bayonetta 1 they ported over just for this release. That's a pretty damn good deal. Both games on in the same package for the same price. I gotta say, I've never told people go out and buy something, but I'll definitely tell you, if you can afford it, you should definitely go out and support this. Don't buy it used, buy it new. The developers deserve your money for this, and you deserve a good gameplay experience, and they're offering you one. So that's my little bit on that. I think that was important to say. Next up, what I would think is probably the deal of the month. I got Steel Battalion Line of Contact. You're like, well, what the deal of the month? All right, so here's the deal. Steel Battalion is a game that is incredibly rare, but not because of the game itself, but because of this. This is a controller. Yes, this is a controller just for Steel Battalion. Every single one of these buttons does something. Look at this. It's intense, and joysticks and everything. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So, deal with this was, I was at Disc Replay when I was buying the 3DO there, and as I'm checking out, I noticed that they have this. They just have it sitting up there with the game. And I noticed the price. Now, this thing usually sells between $300 to $400, right? Because it was $200 when it came out. It's a very expensive thing, as you can see. It was obviously expensive to build these, difficult to ship them, etc. And they wanted $125 for it. Now, I looked on it. There was a lot of layers of stickers on it. They had, at one point, had it for $400, then down to $350, $300, $250, $200. And I looked at it and I told the guy, wow, you guys have Steel Battalion, nice. He's like, do you want it? Please tell me you want it. And I was like, I mean, it's intriguing, but I'm not really that interested in spending $125 on the thing. And he was just like, oh God, I hate that thing so much. It takes up so much space. I just want it out of here. And I was like, oh, well, sorry. And he was like, if you take it, I will give it to you for $100. And I was like, okay, that's really tempting. And I asked him, does it have the box? Does it have the manual, etc.? And he was like, no, it's just what you see here. It's these in the game. And I went, I decided to pass on it because this version of Steel Battalion is Steel Battalion Line of Contact. This is a game that actually requires Xbox Live to play. It's basically a coaster now because Xbox Live's the original Xbox game servers are no longer functional. It does have a system link option. So I think if you had 2 of these and 2 copies of the game, you could actually play that. But that's still basically useless because you have to track down another one of these things. So I told him that. I was like, yeah, I mean, for $100 for a coaster and a big, cool-looking controller, I don't know what else I'm going to do with it. And he was just like, oh. And he's like, all right, hang on one second. And he goes off to the game section. And then he comes back, and he puts this down. That's Steel Battalion, the first one. This one is not online. This one actually works offline and can still be played to this day with this controller. He said, if you take it for $100, I will include this, which is a $30 game, for free. You just take it for $100. It's all yours. so I accepted, because I thought that, I mean, you know, $100, man. I know it's still $100, but look it up right now. That's a lot more than $100 for that stuff right there. And so we had a deal there, and I went to the register, and then he told me for some reason it was easier to, since he had to like manually mark it down or whatever, he said it was actually easier to input it as $99 at $98.99 as opposed to $99.99. Don't ask me why, I don't work there. So I actually got it for $99. You knocked $1 off of the register. Just $1, but hey, I'll take it. So that was pretty cool. And believe it or not, we're not actually done here. Check it out, mini surprise unboxing. So the deal with this is, a few years ago, I did a video about, this is a package from a guy named Gary Walton. And I did a video about a package he had sent me. He basically makes like custom Dreamcast cases, like custom artwork for them, for games that aren't in your region. So for example, he lives in the UK, so he likes to make a lot of UK cover art, or the European artwork, I should say. So when a game that came out only in like Japan, let's say like Ikaruga, right? He'll make the artwork that it would have looked like had it come out in either North America or in Europe, which I think is pretty cool. So he'll package it all up, make it look very professional. He'll actually include like a burned copy of the game too, just kind of for the hell of it, and he'll send that on its way. So I had actually previously ordered one from him. I had ordered one based on Hellgate, which was an unreleased Dreamcast game, which is, I like that he does that. He makes high quality artwork and covers and stuff for games that never actually got released at all, except, you know, through leaks onto the internet. And he just contacted me randomly and was like, hey, I kind of want to send you another one of these things if you want it. And I was like, sure. So he was like, all right, just go through the site and see which one you like. So I'm going to put a link to the site in the description. You can take a look at all the pretty artwork he's made. And if you like anything, you know, give the guy, you know, contact him. So we'll go ahead and find out what this one is. I don't actually know. Because he basically said, just, you know, go ahead and pick a couple and I'll see which one I can send you. So I'm going to try to unbox this way. I don't know why I attempt unboxing these things. I can never really do it. He included a little pouch thing here. He makes these. These are this is clearly for an Xbox 360 controller, basically just a, you know, a dust case for it, just to kind of keep dust out of it, which is pretty cool. And over here, he had made a custom artwork thing for Toe Jam and Earl 3 Mission to Earth. And if you're not aware, Toe Jam and Earl 3 was ultimately released for the original Xbox, but it was originally a Dreamcast game. And I believe it was like a year ago or 2 years ago, the Dreamcast version of it did leak onto the internet, sort of. It was like almost like an official leak. Kind of an interesting story, actually. There was a guy who found it. I don't know if he found it on a development kit or if he found like an actual GDR of it somewhere, but it was incomplete, but it was one of the builds of the game. And he actually went ahead and contacted Sega and contacted the original developers of the game and said, like, can I release this? And Sega ignored him, but the developers said, you know what, let us contact Sega. So they contacted him, and ultimately it was decided you can release it publicly if you want. That's okay. Just don't, you know, try to profit off of it. And so that's why it's out. And so Gary went ahead and made nice, cool custom artwork for it. He did include a copy of the game. Of course, it's a burned copy, but there you go. Nice artwork on it, and you know, the nice label there on the back and the front and everything, and very, very cool to have that, and that makes it, you know, look in, you know, like a totally legitimate thing you can have in your collection, which is very neat. And like I said, he does that for all the other unreleased games, and he also has, you know, games from the regional artwork, so you can make any game set look the way you want it to look. But yeah, thank you again to Gary for that. That was really cool of you. Thank you to Reload Games for those. Thank you to Suba for those. Thank you to John for the Gamecom. And of course, thank you to Saturn HST for the Dreamcast. And thank you guys for watching. It was really cool of you to actually sit through this incredibly long episode of PlayLoad. But nevertheless, thank you very much, and I'll see you all later.